Welcome to Fortress of Faith with Tom Wallace, calling North America to repentance and revival.
Well, welcome back once again to the corner of truth and courage. You're listening to Fortress of Faith. Yesterday I began talking to you about Islam in Bible prophecy. And I find a lot of things that bring the teachings of Islam and the things that you study about Islam, and you look at Bible prophecy, you see some interesting things that I think brings clarity to the Bible. When you're looking forward in Bible prophecy, things are blurry. You can make supposition. You can, sometimes it's a little bit of guesswork. Well, we think this is what's going to happen and so on there. So I'm going to share with you some theories that I have based on my knowledge of Islam and based on my knowledge of Bible prophecy and based upon a few trips that I've had to Israel and things I've observed and seen. And I think this might be of interest to you. I don't think I'm going to have time to get into yet, and we'll probably have to do it tomorrow, where I believe that the Bible is telling us that Islam will be the religion of the Antichrist. 5 times the word Antichrist is used. Now, it's not referring to the person Antichrist. For some reason, we call a man Antichrist. The Bible doesn't do that. The Bible calls him the man of sin, the man of perdition, the wicked one, the beast. But we often refer to him as the Antichrist. And the reason for it is because, in a sense, he is claiming to be the Messiah, the Christ that we're looking forward to returning, but it's not him. He's the false one. And so he's the Antichrist. And so we designate him with that label. And when you look at Bible prophecy, there's a lot of different interpretations, different doctrinal positions that are out there. I hold to what is called a pre-tribulation rapture. Some people believe that the rapture of the saints is going to happen before the tribulation period, the 7-year tribulation period, and after that, the Antichrist will be revealed. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3. He'll make a 7-year peace agreement with Israel, Daniel chapter 9. Halfway through that point, he'll break that peace agreement. He'll desecrate the temple, as talked about in Matthew chapter 24. And, in the great tribulation period, the bowl judgments, trumpet judgments, all these things are going to unfold as we read about in the book of Revelation. And at the close of that 7-year period, there'll be the Battle of Armageddon. The Lord will actually return at that point. This is what we call the second coming. The rapture is not the second coming. That is when the Lord comes in the air. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 17. And we meet him in the air. And the saints, those who are saved, will be raptured up and will be in heaven and will not be here during that 7-year period of tribulation. But when the Lord does return at the end, at the close, there'll be the Battle of Armageddon. We'll war with the Antichrist and his armies, Revelation chapter 16. And at the close of that, of course, God will win, and the saints, the devil will be thrown into the pit for a period of 1,000 years. And this leads us into what we call the 1,000-year millennial kingdom. The Lord will reign. We will reign with him on earth. The devil will be loosed for a short season. At the end there, he'll gather up another army of rebellion, and there'll be a final battle then. We call that the Battle of Gog and Magog. Of course, the devil and his forces will lose. Then we'll be ushered into an eternal state. This is what we see in Bible prophecy. Now, I know some people have different views. Well, the rapture is going to happen halfway. We call those mid-tribulation views, or some will say there's no rapture at all, there's no millennial kingdom, all that is figurative language and so on there, and so they dismiss it as allegory, and they call it amillennialism, and so on. There's no 1,000-year reign, it's not real, it's not a literal. As I said, there are various points of view, but let me give you some of my theories. When the Antichrist comes, and again, please understand, what I'm sharing today is supposition on my end, but it's based on my knowledge of Islam, my knowledge of what I think is going to happen, what I've seen in Israel. And if you were to go to Israel, one of the grandest things that you'll ever get to do in your life is to go up to the top of the Mount of Olives. And there's a valley in between you and the Temple Mount. And you overlook, and the Mount of Olives is higher than the Temple Mount. And on the Temple Mount, this is where the temple where Jesus used to be, where he worshipped in that temple, and that was destroyed in 70 A.D. by the Romans, and the walls and the whole city, it was destroyed at that point. About 600 years later, then came the Muslims. And the Muslims conquered that area under Umar, and they took over the Temple Mount. And it's very important to the Muslim faith because in the Quran you have what's called the Miraj, the night journey of Muhammad, where he was taken in spirit out of Mecca and landed there on the Temple Mount and went to the rock where the temple used to be and ascended up into heaven and spent an evening with God in heaven, and then descended there and returned back to Mecca. And that place that they believe where Muhammad ascended into heaven is where the temple used to be, and that's where they built the Dome of the Rock. So this is a building that's been there for almost 1,400 years, highly celebrated, and belongs to the Muslim faith. And this piece of land has been a great source of division between the Jews and the Arabs, the Muslims. I suspect that when the Antichrist comes, that he will offer a peace deal with Israel. And of course, again, this is all supposition. Now, let me say this too. If you go to the Temple Institute, which is, just blocks away, you got the Western Wall, and just up the hill there, you've got the Temple Institute, and there you actually see the menorah. I mean, it's there. It's full size, made of solid gold. Everything is ready to rebuild the temple. There's only really two things, and I can't remember what the second thing is, but one of the two things that they are still looking for to be for sure. Well, I guess I know what the second thing is. Excuse me. Here on national radio, I had an embarrassing mind gaffe there. The Ark of the Covenant, right? That's probably one of the most important parts of the temple. But the other thing that they're missing is the red heifer. But they believe that in India they have found the perfect line, the perfect pure breed of the red heifer, and stuff, which is one of the animals that is sacrificed there in the temple to cleanse the temple. Well, so everything is ready to be built. And I suspect what's going to happen is that the Antichrist is going to show up, and he will say, let's have peace, and let's have unity on the Temple Mount instead of division. Let's have a place for the Muslims to worship. That's already there. The Al-Aqsa Mosque is there. The Dome of the Rock is there. And Jews, go ahead and build your temple. Now, one thing that's very interesting, and I don't have the time probably in today's program to develop this fully, but the Eastern Gate is not in line with the Dome of the Rock. For some reason, when Suleiman the Great rebuilt the walls of Jerusalem, the foundations of the Eastern Gate wasn't directly in front of where they've got the Dome of the Rock. It's about 500 feet to the north. And that Eastern Gate is there, and if everything that I've studied about the temple, the Eastern Gate, the gate and the temple were directly in line with each other. And so they're going to put it right there, 500 feet to the north of the Dome of the Rock. And there's plenty more room up on the Temple Mount. If you look, you see pictures of it there. There's, trees and stuff there at this point there, but that'd be the spot for the Christians to come on board. Let's have all three of the Abrahamic faiths, the Muslims, the Jews, and the Christians, the monotheist of the world, and let's all three of them worship together in unity and in peace. It's only reasonable to consider that this will be the offer of the Antichrist when he comes. And so I believe entailed with it, and as I said yesterday, I believe that the Antichrist is going to come from the Arabs, from a Muslim out there. They're the ones who want the destruction of the Jews from the river to the sea. What do they mean by that? The river, this is a saying that Muslims say often around the world, from the river to the sea. From the river of Jordan to the Mediterranean Sea, they want to push the Jews out of their land into the sea, to see them destroyed, to see the nation of Israel, to see it to come to an end. And every nation around the country of Israel, this small little land, all of them are Muslims, and they seek the destruction of Israel. And so, people have suggested, well, no, the Antichrist is going to come from the Roman Catholic Church. He's going to be the Pope. That's going to be that's where the Antichrist is going to be. And they look at passages out of Revelation chapter 13. It's built on 7 hills, but they skip the part that it's in the wilderness. And so on there. And when I get into, we'll cover it tomorrow. When I get into what I believe is absolutely Bible, as I said today, I've talked to you much about my suppositions. But what I'm going to talk about tomorrow, where the Bible tells me that Islam is the Antichrist religion. There's only one religion in the world that fits what the Bible teaches about the spirit of Antichrist. The word Antichrist is used 5 times in the Bible. Each time it's used, there's reference to a teaching, a doctrine, a dogma. And it refers to it in 1 John chapter 4, verse 3 as the spirit of Antichrist. So the spirit, what the Antichrist teaches, the spirit, its dogma, this theology, this particular piece of theology is attached to it every time the term Antichrist is used. And there's only one religion in the world that fits that doctrine. And we'll get into that in tomorrow's broadcast. So I hope that you'll join us for that. And also, too, let me just give you a heads up. In January, we're going to be announcing the details here real soon. We're going to be offering to our radio audience for the first time a chance for you to join us online and to take our apologetic course dealing with the issues of Islam. And so we'll be giving you details about that here very, very soon. So join us again tomorrow at the corner of truth and courage. God bless you.